Hello. Let's continue with Swami Rama and a call to humanity. Playfully said, humanity, humanity. Subtitled, Revolutionary Thoughts on the Direction for Spiritual and Social Reform in Our Time. We're coming to the end of Chapter 1. Chapter 1 is entitled, The Existence of God. Pretty good stuff so far, I think, huh? Let's see. Who's there? By knowing a particle of dust or gold, we know the entire lump of clay or gold. Likewise, in other words, we know the nature of gold. By knowing a particle of gold, we know the nature of all gold. Hello, Rosalind. Likewise, by knowing an individual body and mind, we can unveil the secret of the universe. That which lies in the universe lies in the body and vice versa. Hi, Johnny. Upon knowing the truth within, one realizes the truth that stands behind the existence of the universe. If we do not accept the existence of God, then how can we explain many of the unknown and indescribable phenomena of the universe? We cannot postpone the issue under discussion by saying, well, there must be some force. That indescribable force of science is known as God. So once again, we run into the notion here that this word God can be seen as a universal force or can be known as a being, a him who is somewhere else, where he and us are separate from one another, or we can view it as one infinite non-dual reality. If we believe in our existence, then how can we deny the collective existence of all? Nicely chosen word there, isn't it? The collective existence. I'll read that again. Ponder on it. If we believe in our own existence, meaning as an individual, then how can we deny the collective existence of all, which can be called God? If there is no way to deny our individual and collective existence, how can we deny the existence of that which is the source of all? Hi, Mary. By denying the existence of God, we deny the existence of all. And so part of the challenge that many of, or if not most of us face, is the question of which way we are viewing infinite reality, which way in which the word big G-O-D is used do we personally hold, and we all get a choice. Actually, our belief or disbelief does not affect the self-existent truth. Truth does not depend upon my belief. It's a funny thing about the ego. The ego wants to think that reality or truth is going to change depending on what the ego person called me believes. Doesn't seem to actually work that way. So let us seek within to find the answers in direct experience is part of the idea. Human beings are caught in the net of their own confusion, which can be removed through the direct experience of the truth. There's an idea, huh? Hello, Marydale. Hi, Bart. A human being thinks according to his nature, and his way of thinking helps him to come to a conclusion. He thinks according to his nature, and his way of thinking helps him to come to a conclusion. On the basis of his conclusion, he decides to act, and in accordance with his action, he obtains a result. So before he actually performs an action, There is a long and interconnected series of inner events, including desire, thought, and decision. Desire is at the root of everything. In order to draw a proper conclusion and perform the action appropriately, one needs to purify one's desires. Without purifying one's desires, one will not be able to organize the very aspects of life. Purification of desire requires the purification of mind, intellect, and ego. These three are called antakarana, the inner instrument. Purification of the inner instrument helps one employ his resources rightly. A person with a purified mind, intellect, and ego purifies his desire and performs his actions while keeping the highest goal of life as his main focus. Without inner purification, a human being fails to envision the true purpose of life. God alone is the source of a human being's inner strength. Without that strength, one cannot even move. That inner strength is sometimes called willpower or self-confidence. Even atheists and non-believers rely on their inner strength. An atheist considers willpower to be instinctive and disregards its connection with the divine, whereas a theist considers it to be divine and makes the best use of it. The divine force does not discriminate and therefore sends forth inspiration equally to atheists and theists alike. There's quite a comment, isn't it? Whether we believe in or disregard the existence of God, or however we may conceptualize that, we may add, we live with that force, and it is only through that force that the journey of life continues. Those who know that their willpower, confidence, inner strength, and intellect receive their inspiration from the very fountainhead of the divine force become humble, gentle, loving, and considerate to all. They know that nothing belongs to them. All the powers belong to God, or the infinite one, non-dual reality, however you want to choose that word. On the other hand, those who do not see the source is another beautiful, simple word, but take their strength, courage, and intellectual understanding for granted, those become egotistical and inconsiderate of others. Thus, belief or disbelief, respect or disrespect, does not make any difference to the divine force itself. It is the individual who is benefited by his own faith in the divine. Until our whole being is illuminated with the light of truth, there is no hope of attaining freedom from pain and misery. Hi, Nellie. Hope you're feeling better. Illumination is not in our hands. However, purification is certainly our part of the process. Faith in God is the way to purify one's mind and heart. Once purification is accomplished, one experiences the illumination of the divine, which already exists in one's heart. Faith in God does not mean believing that God lives in heaven way up in the sky. God who lives in your heart and in the hearts of others, and who manifests in the form of the universe, can help us cultivate higher human virtues. Only from such a God can we achieve freedom from all pain and misery. It seems that there is a subtle and invisible force that guides our destiny of not only human beings, but the whole of creation. Whenever it is needed, that benevolent force takes over and restores law and order in society, community, and nation. As the history of ancient India reminds us, when the priests and Brahmins exploited the Vedic rituals and ceremonies, and when the slaughter of animals became part of their rituals, Buddha was born. He reformed society, altered religious practices, and he brought relief to the suppressed members of that society. However, with the passage of time, people distorted his teachings. Buddhism, which discarded sensual indulgence and drinking, became a victim of wine and sensuality. When the monks started exploiting the innocence of the people, and when they became a burden on society, the monks that is, then the divine force sent a brilliant scholar, yogi, and philosopher known as Shankaracharya. Shankaracharya re-established the Vedic teachings, reformed Indian society, and replaced blind dogmas and superstitions with the profound teachings of the Upanishads. Placing greater emphasis on knowledge, he discouraged ritualism. Through his impressive personality and his spiritual insight, he restructured religious values, set forth a non-dualistic system of thought, and made people understand the importance of knowledge. Within a century, however, his followers became obsessed with criticizing and refuting other paths in order to emphasize the importance of knowledge. The path of knowledge, as set forth by Shankaracharya, was imbued with love, devotion, and selfless service. But under his followers, it became the victim of intellectual exercises, and we still see a good bit of that today. Consequently, the subtle divine force chose another saint, Ramanuja, to discourage that exclusive intellectualism of Vedanta. When Ramanuja appeared, there arose a wave of love and devotion that swept all over India, from south to north and west to east. With the passage of time, these interconnected paths of knowledge and love again fell victim to philosophical debates, losing their main foundation, spiritual practice. Then Madhusudana Saraswati was born, a saint in whom one finds a perfect balance of love, devotion, and selfless service. In his commentary on the Bhagavad Gita, Madhusudana Saraswati clarifies the philosophical and spiritual statements of dualistic and non-dualistic Vedanta. He explains how the worship of a personified God is the initial step toward experiencing the absolute non-dual state of God. From a spiritual standpoint, he offers a unique blend of love, knowledge, and selfless action. Later in the 18th century, when Dharma again declined, Swami Dayananda appeared. Examples of divine intervention can be observed in every area of community life. Just as an individual goes through different stages as he grows from childhood to youth and from youth to old age, a society, nation, and humanity move from one stage to another. The forces of nature follow the will of the divine. Nature is not independent in itself. Those who consider this manifest nature to be the primordial truth do not recognize the existence of the great divine force. While it is true that under the direction of nature, this universe goes through the process of creation and annihilation, knowers of the truth never consider unconscious nature to be the cause of final refuge of this universe.
It's 1:15.
The power of the will of the supreme divine force manifests in the form of nature. The beauty of the divine is reflected in the mirror of nature. Those who have eyes can see divine beauty reflected in various aspects of nature. Through its endless mountain ranges, waves of the ocean, twinkling stars, vast sky, desert, and forests, nature expresses the beauty of the divine. I saw your note there, Bart, and it must be something you're experiencing, because I'm looking here at the download just over there, and it's, I'm happy to say, working perfectly. How pitiful it is to deny the existence of God. Can the unconscious force of matter determine the destiny of the conscious life stream? Does life beget life accidentally or through the chemical reaction of material elements? Is there any force known to scientists that determines the size, characteristics, and capacity of small entities like sperm? In a drop of seminal fluid, there are millions of sperm, all containing the complete seed. Now, it's a metaphorical choice of word, because, of course, it's not the seed, it's the fertilizer. Complete seed of an enormous force of life. One microscopic living entity called the sperm combines with an egg and therefore grows into a child. Can chemistry or anatomy explain the physical structure of a woman, why and how a child grows and is so carefully protected in the mother's womb? From where do the sperm and egg get the power to produce a baby similar to the parents? Is it just because of the genes, which supposedly carry all the characteristics of the mother and the father? From where do the genes, being so small, get such power? Is it just a chemical-induced phenomenon that at the moment a baby is born, the mother's breasts are filled with milk? Have you not noticed all creatures, all form of life, getting their nourishment in one way or another? The human body seems to be an abode of wonders. What can be more mysterious than our own body and mind? Certainly there is a force that is divine, self-conscious, and self-guided. By knowing and taking refuge in that divine force, we attain eternal bliss. From birth to death, human beings go through innumerable experiences, pleasant and unpleasant. But still, they never lose the hope that one day they will achieve what ought to be achieved. Our inner longing never stops, because we are searching not for a limited, mortal, or temporary happiness, but for the eternal, immortal bliss that is identical to our inner self, big S self. One cannot refute the existence of God by intellectual analysis or logical deduction. Hundreds of thousands of people in the past have received the direct experience of God. They cannot all be liars. All of their experiences cannot be imaginary. How confused human beings are. They doubt the sincerity of the beloved sons and devotees of God. How sad it is that human beings doubt the honesty and simplicity of sages who have truth as their eternal friend. Those who do not believe in the existence of God may strive hard to achieve peace and happiness, but all their attempts will be in vain. They know that by no means can material objects provide complete satisfaction. Without shifting one's focus from the external to the inner life, desire grows inordinately, and there is no way to satisfy them. Believing in God means transforming one's attitudes, which comes with purification and surrender to the divine force within. as the person in Star Wars says, may the force be with you. That just popped into my mind. A person who does not know God as such, but who practices truthfulness, nonviolence, self-discipline, and non-possessiveness in his thoughts, speech, and actions, is a genuine theist. On the other hand, those who do not respect and live with higher human virtues, though they worship God, are virtually atheists. Food for thought in those two sentences, isn't it? One attains God through one's virtuous deeds and then worships God as one maintains one's God awareness. On the other hand, through his non-virtuous deeds, a worshiper of God stays away from God and lives a life of hypocrisy. It is useless to deny or argue the existence of God. Every human being accepts God in one way or another, in one form or another. The highest good lies in believing in and finding God. Human beings are considered to be the best of all species because they can cultivate divine qualities and can strive to become one with the divine. However, a human being will retard his growth by not believing in God. A person who believes this manifest world to be the sole reality confines the purpose of his life to his experience of sense pleasures and the accumulation of worldly objects. He works hard to collect objects and is afraid of losing them. He realizes the insignificance of worldly objects, yet he does not know what else to look for in life. Deep down in his heart, even the most successful materialistic person is insecure, dissatisfied, and fearful. Those who believe in God enjoy the objects of the world with a better understanding than atheists. They know that these objects are given to them by the divine and are meant to be employed as tools to experience the divine. Such a person enjoys these objects with full awareness that one day he will leave them behind and merge into the divine. On the other hand, a materialist accumulates stress and tension as he accumulates material objects and lives a life full of insecurity and fear. We cannot escape from our own inherent longings. We cannot postpone our utmost need. In addition to our primitive urges for food, sex, sleep, and self-preservation, there is a higher urge to merge with God. We cannot be at peace unless that inherent divine urge is fulfilled. We all want to experience that all-pervading, omnipresent God from which the entire universe, as well as each individual, evolves. The direct experience of the truth that each of us originates from God and ultimately ends in God makes us secure, happy, and strong. Fearlessness comes from knowing that God is with us and we are with God. Today, people all over the world are busy collecting material objects. All of their energy is focused on the external world. Collecting objects is destructive to mankind. Means and resources can throw one into the blind darkness of worry and regret if one does not have a constructive purpose in life. This constructive purpose can be imparted by a change in the system of education. Today, millions of educated men and women are suffering from a lack of purpose. Lacking also in self-confidence, young girls and boys have become victims of dissatisfaction and frustration. Along with a worldly education, we must provide some spiritual education. Spirituality must not be influenced by a particular religion, sect, or cult. That's where we seem to get in trouble, doesn't it? As a part of our educational training, we must define spirituality in its most precise and universal terms. Spirituality means that which helps us discipline our thoughts, speech, and actions, that which leads us toward the center of consciousness, and thereby unfolds our inner potentials. Education based on such spiritual guidelines will help humanity to become self-reliant, confident, and active in the external world. At the same time, it will enable humanity to broaden its worldview and to become inward, to search for the perennial truth. Only a spiritual-based education can bring a harmonious balance to our external and internal lives. Knowledge of the theories that prove the existence of God is not as important as learning to discipline oneself so that God can be experienced directly. Children should be taught how to sit quietly and make their minds one-pointed. Through their calm and one-pointed minds, children can gain a glimpse of true peace and happiness. We need not force them to believe that there is a God. However, we should provide them with the opportunity to unfold their own inner potentials, gain confidence, and become inspired to search for God according to their own inner tendencies and backgrounds. Believers of all faiths, clinging to external rituals, impose their ideals on their children, forcing them to participate in their time-honored customs. The children are asked to love and worship pictures of Christ, Krishna, and other gods and goddesses, and sometimes even community or religious leaders. This does not help children grow independently. Today, children need to cultivate divine virtues within themselves. They need to look within, find within, and attain freedom. And that's the end of this long and I think very insightful and fruitful chapter. I hope you have enjoyed it. I think it took us, this is 6 times it's taken us to go through this. And I love those last 3 phrases, kind of summarize it all, doesn't it? The need to look within, find within, and attain freedom. Anyway, that was the journey through chapter 1. A lot of ponderings, a lot of food for thought on the existence of God. I hope you heard some little gem or tidbit for you to ponder on and think about and keep with you for a little while. Yes, good stuff, isn't it, Rosalind? And the next chapter coming is another rich one. I love this text. It's just, it's filled with passion, and he doesn't hold back in the contemplations. The next one is on religion and dharma. And sometimes this word dharma gets translated as or confused with religion. And so this next chapter will help us sort out an understanding of how to see the interrelationships, similarities, and differences between these 2 words, religion and dharma. Thank you for visiting and playing. I hope you're having fun with this. To be continued next time. Humanity. Can't help my sense of humor. A call to humanity. Anyway, I hear that voice of that goddess in the subtle realm calling to me saying, "You silly old man, push the button." So I have to push 2 buttons. So there's button number 1. And let's see if we can get a tiny little glimpse of what is to be found in this infinite non-dual reality, sometimes called Big G, God. And we can search for that where in the silence that is found after an Om.
It's 1:30.